Hey everyone, it's your girl Maddie here, aka Beaver Mosh, and today I am joined by Jens of Iotunn, whose new record Kinship is coming out October 25th off of Metal Blade Records. Now, Jens, I have to ask you, how excited are you to finally get this record out to the public?
Yeah, first of all, I'm Jesper, but I'm using my brother's phone, who's also in the band, so that's perhaps why it's a bit confusing. Uh, it's crazy to finally release this one because, yeah, as I've told very many I've been interviewed by, this is by far the most like crazy music journey I've been on and we've been on. Uh, I think we've been working hard on this record for something like 4 years or something. So it's very it's very special to be here and to release it and to beginning to get all these responses from media and so on. But of course, the most exciting thing is the release itself to get it out to our fans and hopefully also lots of new fans. But yeah, it feels good. Very
Yeah,
good.
yeah. The first thing I noticed upon listening to the new record is just, how progressive it is. It goes through like many twists and change ups. There are these heavy sections, there's more melodic parts. It's kind of your hope that listeners will have this sort of journey to follow with different ups and downs through the album.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you can always the dynamics of the Iotunn sound. I think has been there for quite a lot of years, both on our first EP from 16 and yeah, a lot of dynamics on Access All Worlds as well. But I think that uh, it was very important to us to try to expand the dynamics in every way possible on
Hmm.
Kinship. Um, we have so many sources of inspiration of music which we love, but also if you take something like the nature, or if you're hiking the mountains and so on, if you grasp the totality of such a scenario, there are really like eternally vibes of dynamics, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that whole to expand your music as much as possible in some way, but keeping a an honest feel that is natural, you know,
Hmm.
is very important to us and something that we've tried to do even more in Kinship.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, your first album was pretty well received back in 2021,
yeah,
Access All Worlds. Um,
yeah,
how do you find Kinship to kind of be an evolution or a progression for your band since that last record?
yeah. I think that we've matured as a
Hmm.
band and also as people. You know, we are all those 4 years older now, and when we made Access, when we wrote those songs at the get-go, we weren't the band that we are now. So during the Access All Worlds process, we became this lineup, you know.
Hmm.
And that is something that's different with Kinship because we were this band from the beginning. So we've created this album together all the way, you know. But I think we've matured as musicians, and I think also all of us, try to get better also as instrumentalists, you know. So I also think that we've managed to through that to be able to tell our music in even better ways and so on. Yeah. Um, and I also think that our music is perhaps more clear. It's more
Sure.
clear that what it wants. It's more focused. Um, it's more like something like one energy in some way. It's hard to describe, but where I think I really love Access All Worlds, but I think and one of the things I love about Access All Worlds is the like fresh energy of trying to explore what are we able to what are
Yeah.
we capable of in music wise. There's like a very pure energy
Mhm.
on that one, but I think this one is just wider and higher and deeper and yeah.
Yeah.
Perhaps
And
the next step for us, you know.
you talk about on Access All World, you're having this sense of discovery as a band, finding yourself as this new band. Let me ask you,
Yeah.
how did that new band back then actually start? How did you all decide to start making music together?
Uh, Back in 2017, we parted ways with our singer who played with us back on the first EP. And then
Mhm.
we, of course, were on the lookout for a bass player and singer. And we've been seeing Jævn's other band a couple of times back then and began talking about it would be very interesting to reach out to Jævn and ask him. And we actually just did, and sent him, I think, 3 demos or something from Access All Worlds, which were drums and guitars, And Jørn really liked the music, so he joined, and Eskil joined quite soon afterwards. And Eskil joined on bass. He had some months to write all the bass for Access All Wells and record it because we were going to the studio in Gothenburg
Wow.
in Sweden. So it all, it was a different process where Kinship, there's been the whole Kinship process has been crazy in the way that it has been, we've been working constantly very hard on the record, but there's been a calmness to the whole process all the time. Um, but yeah, the band as it is now came to be during the creation of Access All Worlds back in 2018 and 19. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, from my understanding, this is a bit of a concept record following this sort of a kind of prehistoric tribe, kind of like discovering their humanity almost. Any chance you could maybe expand on that a bit?
Yeah, that's so it's still hard for me to answer this question in all interviews actually because there's so many aspects to it.
Yeah.
But I think one of the main curiosities for us to explore on this album is to try and get wiser on what what makes humans, what is
Sure.
the core of human beings, what is the human nature.
Yeah.
And in this also uh, try to unfold a journey of finding yourself or even get lost from yourself, this whole dynamic. And so this whole idea of kinship, what does kinship mean, came to us during the writing process, and yeah, and this whole idea of putting the story back in a non-concrete prehistoric time gave us the possibility to unfold the story in a world of, which is mysterious and where we could unfold it like the story very freely. It would be something else if we had made a kinship album during the time of the Roman Empire or something.
Yeah.
So we wanted it to go all the way back in this mysterious world where everything is very much in touch with the big forces of all these stories we have in mythology and all the energies we have in the nature and in the cosmos and
Hmm.
everything. And something in this is also that spanning time, perhaps we are very much alike and very close to all these matters at any given time, you know.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, it's a story evolving around this kinship term, which is very much for us about relationship,
Yeah.
how you relate to yourself within yourself, how you relate to your family, your friends,
Yeah.
in this matter, your tribe,
Hmm.
how you relate to society, how you connect and relate to nature, your surroundings in general, cosmos, uh, and so on and so on, you know.
Hmm.
And in these energies that exist in all these different kind of relationships, you have in some way all the big themes that can unfold, you know. Um, you have decisions to make, you have choices to make, and in these things, everything is at stake in some way.
Yeah.
You can draw on every feeling and thought and energy in each important choice you make, you know. And so the kinship uh, is rooted in these themes that goes from the darkest to the lightest, from evil to good.
Hmm.
And what is important also to understand is that we're not talking about these things as being separated entities, uh, but more like perhaps a being aware of uh, the point that there's not that far between doing something good and doing something evil, you know.
Yeah.
And these energies are quite intertwined and connected, you know. But yeah, so a prehistoric tribe story about this main character who very shortly told wakes up one morning and meets his brother who is totally disillusionized and he can't connect with his brother who's perhaps the most important relationship for this main character. So he gets like extremely anxious and scared, you know,
Hmm.
deep within, and very quickly sees that this new brother in front of him is a result of something that the tribe has done to his brother.
Yeah.
So his home has removed him from the most important relationship of love that he has, you
Yeah.
know.
That's intense.
A- And on this background, he flees from the tribe, from his home, from his relationship, you know, and wanders into all these kind of uh, uh, settings and wonders in nature and the wilderness. And in all these different scenarios, he gets to search for wisdom, you know, search for uh, who am I, you know, that question. It's hard to, it's hard in our, you know, busy world today to actually find time and space to really answer that question, you know. But in the prehistoric mysterious wonders of nature, he travels on this journey and gets those deep conversations within, and he connects deeply with the worlds he travels through, you know.
Yeah,
But
and it's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, please go on.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting that you take it and you're looking through this kind of prehistoric, humanity versus like any other civilization because you're looking at a humanity before, politics, technology, formal structures of society. And all you have are these, other people around you. It's a very pure form of that relationship you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you know, I think personally that if you look like perhaps too simple on it, that when the first two human beings met and were to like figure anything out,
Yeah,
there would be some kind of interests and politics already there, But
sure.
of course, when you put it back in those scenarios, it's there's a lot of disturbance that is put aside. So it's more purely about these big matters in some way. But just to finish off the story very shortly, there's a lot more to it, and then the main character, um, even though he gets wiser and wiser and wiser on his journey, there's just this eternal feeling of loss,
Yeah.
which grows so strong on him. He's being chased by the tribe all throughout the album.
Hmm.
But he decides to finally like, okay, I'm gonna get myself caught by the tribe again. And so he comes back home and he is put into a ritual where they separate his soul and body in the tribe. And that is also, he finds out what has happened to the brother. And the result of the ritual is that the society around him, the tribe, can control him completely.
Mm.
But they can't control his soul, which is separated from the body and sent into, eternity. So when you come to the closing track, the Anguished Ethereal, uh, that is very much about the soul flying around with everything available, like every time, all space, everything. Uh, and so the soul wanders around in eternity to find a belonging, find a home.
Yeah.
And the album ends in many ways very openly. There's no answer if uh, if the main character finds this, but it's a very in some way a very dark ending. Also, if you take the very last sentence, Yeon sings, it's no one is me. Uh, so everywhere within and externally I go, I where am I?
Yeah.
That's the big question. So yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's very, very gripping. I think there's a lot for listeners to kind of dive into and kind of pick apart, reading through the
Yeah,
lyrics. Before I
yeah,
let you go, there's one last thing I wanted to ask you is
yeah.
I've seen, your music described as many things, progressive metal. I've
Oh
seen it
yeah,
described as like melodic death metal. I've even like if you go back and like your last record, Access All World, I would say there's even some power metal aspects to it.
yeah,
How
yeah.
would you like tell somebody like what is your band? What kind of music do you play?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I think the main thing to mention is that if you have the five of us in Iotunn, who we are and how we get inspired and how we work with music, it's very much uh, it's very much about not thinking in boxes and not thinking in
Sure.
genres. So what I'm trying to say is that creating music for us is a somewhat very, very free
Mm,
experience.
yeah.
Um, we get inspired by our love and passion for music. We really listen to and have been for many, many years a lot of music, also beyond metal music, and traveling in nature and relationships. There's so
Hmm.
much inspiration to gather in good, healthy, bonds with other beings.
Yeah.
So I think the the inspiration and the energies we get from that is very like defined by not being framed, you know.
Sure.
So I can find power metal, you know, music. I can find death metal. I can find black metal. I can find progressive metal. I can find, you know, traditional heavy metal, 70s rock music, classical
Yeah.
music. You know, there's so many things. So if people want to call it melodic death metal, I think that's a very like simplified way of describing our music. If you
Yeah.
listen to, for example, the whole Kinship album, you can't just mention melodic death metal. That's not enough, you know. So
Not
the
at all.
question is question is perhaps what is enough.
Yeah.
So I had an interview at some point with someone who said we played total nature metal or something, and I said that's a good one. So you know, but yeah, we play free metal music. I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there's even like there's an acoustic track on the album, so like to call it
yeah.
like melodic death metal just doesn't make sense, you know.
No,
Um,
and the acoustic track there is you know very rooted in my brother and myself being classical guitarists
yeah.
and really loving classical music, but also for me personally, and I wrote most of the guitars for that one, and that came from a dream of you know making a song where classical music meets folk tradition. I
Hmm.
love you know Neil Young and Bob Dylan and so on, and I love the more classical orientated acoustic music as Ulvers Kvällsanger album or something. You know,
Hmm.
that's I love acoustic music and metal music is so amazing. You know, so that's a combination of many different hopes to finally make such a song. You know,
Yeah.
and as you say, that's not melodic death metal.
No, not
So
at all.
yeah,
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
yeah, pleasure.
Everyone at
Pleasure.
home, look out for the new Iotunn record, Kinship, coming out October 25th off of Metal Blade Records. Always thank you to my patrons to keep the show running. My name is Maddie, aka Beavermosh, and I'm out of here. Bye.
Yeah.